Okay, so today we're going to discuss about business continuity and disaster recovery planning or BCDR, no? So BCDR refers to the strategic framework and procedures, no, that organization implement to ensure the continuation of essential operations during and after disruptive events. So this disruption could include natural disasters, cyber attacks, power outages, or other emergencies that can hinder regular business function. So business continuity and disaster recovery is a critical for minimizing downtime, no, protecting our data, and preserving stakeholder trust during crisis situation. So business continuity planning specifically focuses on maintaining core business functions during a disruption. So it identifies, no, essential processes and outlines how this can continue with minimal interruption. So business continuity planning involves assessing business risk and prioritizing operations and preparing strategies such as alternative work sites, remote work policies, and communication plans to ensure that services remain available to customers and stakeholders. On the other hand, no, disaster recovery is a more technical, no, and centers on restoring IT systems, applications, no, and data after a crisis. No? So it includes processes like data backups, server recovery, and system restoration to bring technology infrastructure back to operational status. So disaster recovery planning is essential, no, for organizations that heavily rely on digital systems and data for their daily operations. And to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our presenter. Go ahead.
Yes po. Wait. Ay, hindi pala ako. Paano ba ito alisin? Hindi ko okay lang. Sige. Ayan. So, good evening po. Good evening, classmate. Good evening, prof. Marinig po ba ako? Sorry. Hindi ko.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, my topic for today nga po, the business continuity and disaster recovery planning. So, wait. So, as part of BCDR or the Business Continuity and Disaster Recovery Planning, I will discuss four key areas, which are the business impact analysis or BIA, and risk mitigation strategies, disaster recovery planning uh, or DRP, and continuity of operations plan, and backup and recovery solutions, and cloud security virtualization risks. So these are all important for helping businesses prepare for, respond to, and recover from disruptions. So business impact analysis and risk mitigation strategies helps a company understand which parts of the business are most important. So it looks at what would happen if certain systems or operations stopped working. So, in other words, BIA helps businesses understand what is most critical for daily operations. So, it predicts problems that could arise if certain processes fail. For example, if the payment system crashes, the company might lose sales. So, to reduce risks, businesses use risk mitigation strategies such as creating backup copies of important data, using strong cybersecurity measures, and training employees on emergency procedures. So, risk mitigation means taking action before problems happen to keep the business safe. So, like what I mentioned here is creating backup copies. So, backup copies ensure data can be recovered if lost. So, while the using strong cybersecurity like firewalls and antivirus software, it helps protects against hacking and data theft. So, training employees also is a must because Employee training prepares staff for emergencies so they respond correctly and avoid mistakes. So these strategies help businesses avoid major disruptions and continue working smoothly even when unexpected problem occurs. So next is the DRP and COOP. So a disaster recovery plan is a step-by-step guide on how to recover from a disaster. It includes things like restoring data, fixing broken systems, and getting operations back to normal as fast as possible. So examples of DRP, um, yeah. DRP is about recovery. So while COOP is about staying operational. So example of DRP is a company experiences a cyber attack that deletes customer records. So DRP guides IT staff on how to restore the lost data from backups. While a continuity of operations plan or COOP focuses on keeping essential business activities running even while recovery is still happening. This ensures that customers, employees, and operations are not badly affected by the disaster. So example of COOP is a company's office is damaged by a flood. So while repairs happen, employees work remotely to keep business running. So the next one is the backup and recovery solutions. So to protect important information, businesses use backup and recovery solutions. So some common backup methods are full backups. It copies everything. Backups saves only new or changed data, and the cloud backups stores data online for easy recovery. And regular backups help businesses recover quickly if they lose data due to system failures or cyber attacks. So, backup and recovery are essential for protecting data from loss due to hardware failure, cyber attacks, or accidental deletion. So, there are different types of backups, which I mentioned, each its own ad, each with its own advantages and use cases. So yung a full backup copies all data, making recovery simple and complete. However, it requires more storage space and time. So example of this is a bank performs a full backup of all transactions every night to ensure financial records remain accurate and secure. This guarantees that no transaction data is lost in case of system failure. So incremental backup, this method saves only new or changed data since the last backup, reducing storage space and backup time. However, restoring data requires combining multiple backups, which can take longer. So example of this is a company backs up only new emails instead of all past emails. So if a system crash occurs, the IT team restores the last full backup and then applies the latest incremental backups to recover all emails. So the cloud storage allows businesses to store data offsite, protecting it from physical damage like fire or theft. It also provides remote access, making it easier to recover files from anywhere. Example of this is a design company stores all client files in Google Drive so employees can access them from any device. So this ensures business continuity even if office computers are damaged or lost. So a good backup strategy often includes a mix of full, incremental, and cloud backups to ensure data is always protected and can be quickly restored when needed. So the next one is the cloud security and virtualization risks. So many businesses store data in the cloud, which is useful but also risky. So some risks include hacking and data breaches. Cyber criminals may try to steal information, and Next is the downtime. If the cloud service goes offline, businesses may not be able to access data. Then the data loss, if not properly backed up, cloud data can be lost permanently. So to stay safe, companies should use strong passwords, encryption, and security updates. So these cloud security risks and prevention tips. So cloud computing offers convenience, but it also comes with security risks. So I already mentioned the risks included. So businesses must be aware of these risks and take steps to prevent data breaches, downtime, and data loss. So yung below are some common risks and how to prevent them. So as I mentioned, common cloud security risks are hacking and data breaches. So cyber criminals can steal sensitive data if security measures are weak. For example, a hospital's patient records get stolen because employees use weak passwords that hackers easily guess. So this could lead to identity theft or violations of privacy laws. So next is the downtime and service outages. If a cloud provider experiences technical issues, businesses may lose access to important data. Example of this is a major cloud provider goes offline for several hours, preventing companies from accessing important files and disrupting operations. So this can cause financial losses and delays in services. So data loss and accidental deletion. So important files can be permanently lost if they are deleted without proper backups. So example of this is a business accidentally deletes important documents from cloud storage, and without a backup they cannot be recovered. So this can result in lost contracts, legal issues, or operational setbacks. So prevention tips to stay safe, businesses should follow these steps. So businesses should use multi-factor authentication or MFA to add extra security steps like one-time codes to protect logins. They also need to keep multiple backups to save important files in different places, including offline, to avoid losing data. And they also need to choose a secure cloud provider. So they need to pick providers with a strong security, updates, and data protection rules. So these steps help keep data safe, reduce downtime, and make recovery easier if something goes wrong. So, conclusion or my final thought in disaster recovery and business continuity. So, to keep a business safe and running, companies should identify important tasks with business impact analysis. They need to prepare a disaster recovery plan and continuity plan, use backup and recovery solutions to protect data and improve cloud security and manage virtualization risk. So, disaster recovery and business continuity are essential for keeping business running smoothly even in unexpected situations. So, by identifying critical tasks through business impact analysis, companies can plan for potential risks and minimize damage. A disaster recovery plan ensures that lost systems are restored quickly, while a continuity plan keeps essential operations running. Regular backups and recovery solutions protect valuable data, and strong cloud security measures help prevent cyber threats and system failures. So, by following these steps, businesses can recover quickly from problems and continue working without big delays. So, in real life, these strategies are very crucial. For example, if an online store's payment system fails on Black Friday, it could lose thousands in sales. So with proper planning, backup systems can keep transactions running smoothly. Similarly, if a hospital's data is compromised, quick recovery ensures patients get the care they need without delays. So being prepared means businesses can continue serving customers, maintaining trust, and minimizing financial loss even in a crisis. So that's all. Thank you po.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to play also a video presentation.
Ano daw?
I'll play a video presentation in addition to your discussion.
Okay.
In business, when we look to create something new, we need to follow a process, which is much like a recipe, really. Because if you go in the kitchen to make a batch of cookies, you're going to follow a recipe. Otherwise, there's no telling what you're going to end up with, and you're probably not going to want to eat it. So, in business, we follow a process so that we can enhance our chances for success of creating something usable. And that means it's time to jump in and take a look at the business continuity and disaster recovery planning process. So the first thing we're going to do in this process is assign ownership. And that's because we need something. We need accountability. So we assign who has ownership of our business continuity and who has ownership of our disaster recovery planning. And again, business continuity and disaster recovery are very similar, and a lot of it overlaps, like a whole lot. And when it comes to the process of planning, that overlaps as well, 100%. We go through the same process for each of them. So once we identify who will be accountable for these plans, we have ownership at that point. So now we can start with the rest of the process, which continues with developing a policy for business continuity and disaster recovery, because every program or anything we do in business should have a policy around it. So we have a policy that's going to define what our purpose is of the disaster recovery and business continuity plans. What is the purpose of these plans? So we need to identify this early on so we know what our target is. That is our purpose. Then next we have a scope. We need to identify the scope of what this disaster recovery and business continuity planning will cover. Will it cover the entire organization as a whole? Will it cover only certain parts of the organization? Or maybe certain branches of the organization, just depending on what we're looking for. Now, it will most likely include the entire organization, but there are instances where we might not want to. And then lastly, we need to define the authority of the program. So what authority does the program have, or those running the program within the organization, so they can do things like, make decisions on behalf of the organization to get things back up and running sooner rather than later. So those are three things that we need as part of our policy. We need to have a purpose, we need the scope, and of course, the authority. And as I mentioned before, the business impact analysis. Now that we have someone in charge of the business continuity disaster recovery plans, and again, those are two separate plans, but we have someone who's going to wear the hat of the in-charge person, and we have also defined a policy. We've created it and put it into play. So those are the two things that we started with. We now need to execute a business impact analysis. Now this is where we're going to go through and identify key business processes, and we're going to take that list and we're actually going to prioritize it. And those key business processes are what keep the business alive and functioning. And once we identify those, again, we're going to prioritize them. And we should define a statement of impact for each of those items listed so that we know what will happen if we lose that service. Will we lose email capabilities? Will we not be able to produce a certain product? Will we not be able to process payroll? What is the statement of impact if we lose that key business process? So that's the third thing. We perform our BIA. Then we take that BIA information and we put it through some critical analysis, which is step 4. And the critical analysis analyzes the risk. There's our key word there again, risk. And we analyze the risk associated with that key business process. So that is important. We're going to analyze the risk associated with it. Then we're going to define the likelihood of occurrence. That's our next step. So we know how risky it is. Maybe we define a scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 being a super high risk and 1 being a low risk. So that way we have our risk scale. And then we have a scale of likelihood, maybe 1, 2, and 3, low, medium, and high of likelihood. And this way we could actually take risk multiplied by likelihood, and we can come up with a value that's associated with our critical analysis. Once we've completed that, we need to go through and establish our recovery goals. We now know by performing our critical analysis what the impact and likelihood of given scenarios and services are. So now we need to establish what our recovery goals are going to be. Meaning, do we need to recover this within an hour, within 6 hours, within 24 hours? Because we now know the impact it's going to have on our organization for every second that it's down and the likelihood that it will occur. Now, we covered these exact terms in the risk management objectives video. Let me put that up here. Risk management objectives. So if you go to that video as part of this series, you'll go over all of these recovery goal terms in detail. Right now, we're just going to kind of run through them, starting with maximum tolerable downtime. And that is the maximum amount of time that we can be down and still survive as a business. Then we have maximum tolerable outage. And this is the maximum downtime per type of outage, because there's different types. You could have power outage, you could have service outage, there's various types of supplier outage, whatever it might be for a given scenario. And again, these are going to be for individual services, because we're not going to have the same MTD, MTO, and others as we go through them for every service. It's not a global number. Each of these services that we identify in our BIA is going to have a different value for whatever these recovery goals are. For instance, our payroll system. Well, we might be able to go 4 days without our payroll system being up and running. So the MTD for payroll might be 4 days. But when it comes to something like our inventory database, well, that can only be down for 6 hours, or we're really going to be behind. So its MTD might be 6 hours. Then we have recovery time objective, RTO, and the RTO is what our objective is as far as how long we want to be down. So this is really our goal for outage. So if your RTO is 4 hours, then you want to be back and running within 4 hours. Then we have RPO, recovery point objective, and that deals with the amount of data loss you're willing to accept. And that's because our backups run at different periods. So if they run every 6 hours, well, then you could lose up to 6 hours of data. So your RPO is your recovery point objective. That's a point in time. So how much data are you willing to lose? Then we have our RCAP O, and this is our recovery capacity objective. And this deals with basically a workaround. How long can we run in a workaround state and still be effective? Again, we covered all these in depth in the risk management objectives video, so it would be a good place, if you don't recall these, to go back and review them in detail. So once we've established our recovery goals here, well, then it's time to move on to creating a recovery strategy and plan. Now, this includes identifying a recovery solution and plan. Now, of course, our strategy is everything we need to do to get from today to where our recovery goals are. So all those things in between, that is our strategy. And it might be, well, definitely one of them is going to be identify a recovery solution. We're also going to have to define a plan, and there's other things in there as well. So here's the thing with the recovery solution. It needs to meet our recovery goal. So if we had a recovery time objective of 6 hours, that means we don't want to be down for longer than 6 hours for a given service. We need a recovery solution that's going to allow us to recover in less than 6 hours. The thing with
Okay. Again, as our presenter mentioned earlier, no, uh, BCDR or the Business Continuity and Disaster Recovery Planning begins with a risk assessment and business impact analysis or BIA because this helps activities or these activities helps no, identify potential threats and estimate the consequences of service disruption based on this analysis. No, organization can design tailored recovery strategies that align with operational priorities and risk tolerance. So the goal is to ensure that critical services can resume within an acceptable time frame, no, known as the recovery time objective, and with minimal data loss referred to as the recovery point objective. So developing a BCDR plans requires collaboration across different departments, no, including the IT, human resource, the operations, and leadership, no, because the clear roles and responsibilities are defined to ensure that all team members understand their part during a crisis. So training, regular drills, and simulation are also essential to ensure readiness and to identify any weaknesses in the plan that need improvement. So BCDR is not one-time effort, but a continuous process. So as technologies, threats, and business models evolve, organization must regularly update and test their BCDR no, plans to remain effective. And this adaptive approach ensure the plan stays aligned with the current business goals and regulatory requirements. So the importance of BCDR no, has grown in recent years due to increasing cyber threats, no, climate change, and the global interdependence of supply chain. So organizations that lack robust BCDR planning risk significant financial losses, reputational damage, and legal liabilities. In contrast, those with effective plans in place can recover faster and maintain the confidence of customers, employees, and partners. So therefore, business continuity and disaster recovery planning are important components of organizational resilience because they enable businesses to withstand and recover from disruptive events while protecting people, processes, and technologies. By proactively preparing for potential disasters, organizations can safeguard their long-term success and sustainability. Okay, so I think that's it for this topic.